evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us for the next in our series of webinars. Tonight, we're talking much about emotions, and its title of it is called Make or Break, and that's for a good reason. For a child starting school, whether it's a preschooler, grade 1, high school child, it is very much about the emotions, what that child feels in terms of how they're going to cope further on. And tonight, we're going to explore some of that. First of all, we're going to look at the problem, why and how this happens, and the impact on every child. And then later on, Julie McCarthy is going to join me, and she's going to talk about some of the solutions, some of the ways that we want to assist the children at the bridge in terms of developing that emotional growth in those little guys. So that's our title, Make or Break, and it really is. So let's have a look. So first of all, we're going to look at the stages of emotional development in children, and we'll go through that in a second or two, and we got one or two questions that people can answer. First question, very easy one. What do you think that emotion is? That's a photo of one of my children. Won't mention names or anything else to protect the innocent. Well, what do you think? Emotion? I think that little guy was cross. He was really angry. Could have been anything. No food. He was warm, so I'm not sure. Anyway, let's have a look at the next section. So, what do you think? At what age does a baby become highly emotional? Intensely happy, very sad, frustrated, angry? Would you say it's at a day old? Would you say it's at 2 years of age, or maybe 9 to 10 months of age? What do you all think? Think of your experience with the baby that you know in your world, whether your own baby or somebody else's baby. What do you think? Day old, 9 to 10 months? Well, I think we all know that it's probably from a day old. That little guy will tell you if he's cross, if he's angry, if he's unhappy. He will tell you for sure straight away. So what about this next one? What age do you think a child starts developing measurable emotions? And there we would talk about a thing called empathy, and we've spoken about that before, the ability to feel what somebody else might feel, whether it's pain or whatever, or self-consciousness. And that's where a child or a person develops the idea of themselves, not just getting food from the people around them or whatever it is, nourishment. So do you think it's 9 to 10 months of age? Do you think it's 15 months of age? Or do you think it's probably only from 2 to 3 years of age? What would you say is most likely if you think of a little person developing these emotions, and let's say measurable emotions such as empathy or self-consciousness? Well, there's quite a debate about this topic, and lots of people have done research into trying to understand it, but majority of the research says it's at about 15 months of age where a child starts to develop this idea of there is somebody else. Empathy, whether it's mom mostly, dad, people around them, and sometimes self-consciousness as well, their own place in the world. So that's interesting that it's at 15 months of age, because we kind of think it might be a little later. Now let's have a look at how changes affect the emotions of a child. And there we're talking about the changes that a child might go through day to day. So let's have a look at certain things. And as I've said there, which of the following, and we'll look at them now, affects the emotional world of a child. And we could do most, but let's have a look. And then I would like for you to try to imagine that everyone is of a similar socioeconomic world. That's really not going to be easy to do, but try to do that, because it's about, if we're talking about a child that has food and roof over his head or whatever the case is, let's say that it's a similar socioeconomic world. Let's try and work from that perspective. So what about moving home? In other words, you live in a certain home and mom and dad decide, or whatever circumstances are such, you have to move to another place, another home, another bed, another room, another house. Does that have an effect on a child? What about parents splitting up? I think often we say, I've heard lots of people over the years saying things like, children are resilient, they're fine, they're strong, they can cope with anything, they'll move forward, not a problem. Well, I would like to say that that's not always the case. Very often that can be a problem for a child. What about that one, starting at a new school? And this is a thing that at the bridge we encounter quite often, where a child comes from another school and then has to start at our school, new teachers, new friends, new environment, new classroom, new physical school, and not very easy. And I think that also affects a child. Try and think of what do you think the most, or what affects a child a lot. What about new general environmental factors, change in economic circumstances? And I've put that specifically because a lot of children have gone through that. Parents have had to sell vehicles, they've sold houses, they've moved into a smaller place. Parents are often not working or working a lot less or at home. So lots of changes in economic circumstances. And our children also have to cope with no sport, no usual activities. They're not able to do the things that they were used to do. So must have an impact on the child's emotions. We encounter this quite a lot at school, all of us. I think many teachers would identify with this one, where a child battles to master the work or a concept. And would that affect his emotional world or her emotional world? I would say for sure. Let's have a look at the other one. What about new teachers? This is an interesting one. And it's a debate that we've had a number of times in terms of what about a child adjusting to a new teacher? Is it difficult? Can he just adapt and say, oh, well, this year I've got a new teacher, somebody else? I think it's very difficult. It's a new person in your life, a new person that you see every single day, almost every day of the year. And it's not your mom, it's not your dad, it's not your brother, your sister, or your friends. It's your teacher, and you probably see more of them than anyone else. And particularly in the foundation phase where you spend the whole day with that teacher, what happens? Is it difficult to adjust to a new teacher? We've had the debate, do we tell children in November or December who their teacher will be the following year, or do we not? Do we let them sit with a situation for 2 months where they battle to cope and they may worry about being in a certain teacher's class? What happens if they told they were in the teacher's class and then they change on the first day of school? So we've really worked around those ideas, and we've come up with what we feel is the right solution, but always willing to debate that one because it's a tough one for a child. Unfortunately, the next one is one which has come to plague all of us, I think, and recently with COVID and this pandemic. For a child to cope with the illness or the death of a close person in his life or her life or loved ones, very, very difficult. And I think many children have had to cope with this situation, and it has affected their emotions. So again, we expect a child to be fairly resilient, cope with these issues, they just carry on. Well, I don't think it's that easy, and I think a lot of our children have battled with coping with illness, coping with the death of a loved one or a close person. And they're at school the next day. We've had it before where someone really, really close to them has died and they're almost at school the next day, which is amazing. How do you do that? How do you cope with those things? And I think they battle to cope. The next one, again, because of our pandemic over the last, boy, what is it, almost a year, where we've really been had issues around it, coping with illness, impending death from that pandemic. What about a child? You tell the child you have to wear the mask, you have to social distance, you have to sanitize, you have to wash your hands all day, you have to do all of these things. You can't sit in your chair, you have to sit in a square block in your classroom. It's very, very difficult for a child to cope with all those things. And I think, again, we expect our children just to cope and be fine. They are not fine. I think all of these things definitely affect them. And then, obviously, the question was which one of those would affect the emotional world of a child the most? And I would say that most of our children have many of those factors. A combination of those factors is probably what's going to affect a child's emotional world. And if we expect a child to just cope academically, socially, with let's say 2 or 3 or 4 of those issues, or even just one of those issues, that's huge. I think we need to be much more aware of the fact that our children battle because of those emotional issues. And because he's not concentrating in class, because she's not coping, we need to look a little bit deeper sometimes to see what are all the issues with that little person and why are they not coping. So I think it's vital. Last week at the Bridge, we were very privileged to have a training session with an external consultant, and Angela, and I still can't pronounce her surname, but there you go. So Angela was amazing, and she tried to show us, and her workshop was what it feels to be like a child with barriers to learning. So for us, it was an amazing experience, and her workshop was called that, Experiencing the Child with Learning Difficulties. And I say exercise is magnificent, and I mean that because I did the workshop and as if I was a child, and we went through the whole thing, and I experienced many of those emotions, and these are the emotions that I think average children experience, but definitely the Bridge, where we have learning assistance, I think they experience it a lot. So what did I feel? First of all, we were doing many tasks, and they were dyslexia tasks and other tasks, and I felt anxious. I really did. I felt anxious that I wasn't keeping up with all the other people. So this workshop was for all our teachers and therapists, and it was a group of people, and I would say that they were all pretty bright people, and I felt very anxious. I just wasn't keeping up. I was worried. I was checking what everyone else was doing. I felt embarrassed. that my work wasn't up to the required standard. And I really, honestly did not want to show it to anyone else. In fact, some people said, so how far did you get? And I didn't want to show them because it was really difficult for me. I was embarrassed that I wasn't doing what I felt to be work up to standard. And eventually we had to show work to others. And then I felt even worse. I felt very shy. I felt inferior for sure. And it made me feel a little, we talk about empathy, a little what somebody else felt. This is an interesting one, and the teacher herself, Angela, would have said, and she did say, that people in the room didn't want to make eye contact with her. And because I really did not want to make eye contact with her in case she singled me out and asked me a question and I might not have had an answer or my work wasn't up to standard. I didn't want to make eye contact. I was just looking down at my work and I didn't want anyone to see me. And I thought if I couldn't see them, they couldn't see me. But very tricky. And I think that's what we need to understand. Our children battle with that. Then at one stage, she said to us, what if I said to you that you need to try harder? Just try harder. Or she didn't say it like that. She's a very sweet lady. But no, try harder or focus better. Don't give up. And I can tell you, it would have made no difference to me whatsoever. I was trying my best. I was trying my hardest. I was trying to focus. And yet, it wouldn't make any difference. I still battled with the task. And I think that she made her point very well with those kinds of things. Another thing was, I often lost my place. I wasn't sure where I was, and I was looking around and saying, where are we? What are we doing? Which number are we on? Or which letter? Which sentence? And I think, again, I experienced what a child may feel in a classroom situation where he loses his place. So what are the emotions I felt? I felt worried all the time. The entire lesson, I was worried. I was upset. I really didn't feel that I was coping. I was embarrassed. I didn't want people to see my stuff, work that I was doing. I was confused. I wasn't sure what I was doing. I really felt confused. I was definitely anxious throughout the time. I was completely anxious. And that last one, I felt really unintelligent. I felt as though I wasn't good enough. Other people all seemed to be faster. They seemed to be finishing the tasks. And I just felt that I wasn't right. I wasn't good enough. And that was a tricky thing. So for me, it was a wonderful experience to feel what the child feels, so that when we're working with children in our classes, we need to be aware of these emotions. We need to be aware of what they're feeling. And for us to say, try harder, focus more, do something, I don't think that really is going to help the child to do any better. We need to be aware of what these issues are. Of course, we're in academic school the same as any other, and we've got certain things to achieve and to accomplish, but we need to be aware of the emotional world of the child, that child comes to school with in the morning and how he copes for the rest of the day. So also, to make emotional matters even more difficult, imagine starting at a high school. That should be starting, not stating. Starting at a high school for the first time. At the Bridge, we had our first grade 8s this year, and I'm very proud of their progress. It's been difficult for them to fit into a situation, and most of them came from other environments. So it was difficult, and yet they've done it. They've done very well. They've had, I think, good teachers who've able to touch on those emotional adjustments for them and be very accepting of them and coping well with them. So yes, very difficult. We did have a webinar last year where we spoke about the high school child in a learning assisted environment, but makes no difference. These little guys have battled, and all teachers need to be aware of the emotional world of the child. So I think at the Bridge, we are aware of the impact of those emotional issues. And remember, we're talking about academic performance. If I'm feeling what all those things, worried, sad, anxious, embarrassed, and if I'm feeling all of those things, I know I'm not going to have my best academic performance. Even if I'm capable, I might not show people that I'm capable just because I'm overwhelmed emotionally. So one of the things that we'd like to focus on at the Bridge going forward is that child's emotional world. How can we help that child to cope better, to feel less anxious, to feel stronger, to have a better self-image going forward? So we really want to focus on that side of things. Of course, in the classroom, our job is always about the intellectual side or the academic side, but what about the emotional side? What about a child's, and I'm sure you've all heard EQ. So EQ is emotional intelligence. Julie's going to talk a lot about the difference between EQ and IQ in a second, but at our school, we really, really would like to focus on that going forward. And we've got a pilot program this year where we're going to try to help a couple of grades, and then we will be able to roll it out going forward. And we'll be able to tweak certain things and use this as a pilot program going forward. So the lady is going to help us with that program. Julie is going to be with us in a minute. She's very experienced in terms of helping children, as you can see there, to develop their emotional growth. She's worked with children as individuals, as groups, and she's going to assist us with this pilot program in the second term of this year. And then once we've tweaked and looked at a few of the issues, we can roll out the full program later, possibly this year or even next year, depending on how we go. So Julie's going to discuss the program for us. She's also going to provide us with the questionnaire at the end, which we'd like each parents to fill in to give us an idea of a child's world. And we'll also provide that link tomorrow on another platform. But if you can do it tonight, that'll be fine. So Julie's going to take over from now. She's going to present to us. She's got lovely slides for you to see, to explain the concepts that we've been talking about very well, followed by a video after that, which definitely will explain things a lot better than I explain. I'm going to put off the camera for a second, and then Julie will put it on and take over. Thank you very much. At the end, we're going to look at some questions and hopefully help you with that. Julie and I will do that together. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Greg, and thank you very much for having me here tonight. I'm very excited to be getting involved with the Bridge School. I think it's a wonderful program to be introducing to the children, and hello to everybody out there. Okay, so I'm going to start by just talking about the MadGQ program, which is the program that we're going to be introducing as a pilot in term 2. So the program actually provides practical life skills or emotional intelligence support to children, teens, special needs individuals, parents, teachers, therapists, and helping them in creating an independent, connected, confident, creative, mindful, happy life. So our purpose here is to actually help children to unlock their potential. So the program runs over a series of sessions. In the first session, we will ask questions like, what are your skills? What makes you happy? What do you enjoy doing? And, you know, some children will say, oh, I love doing this. I'm good at dancing. I'm good at maths. I'm good at rugby. Other children won't have a clue. They will just sit there blankly and have no answer. So we help them to understand what they enjoy. And by the end of the program, they're always telling us what they enjoy, what their skills are. We also work with adults, and I work with parents, and often working with parents and children together, often the children are better at answering the questions about what their skills are than the parents, because as we grow older and experience life, we have emotional baggage that gets stored in our subconscious, and we create behavior patterns that become very difficult to change. So when asked an adult what are your skills are, we often overanalyze it and panic and worry as well. Children are a lot more spontaneous. We also help them to achieve their personal best. So they learn that it's okay to not to be good at everything, and as long as we're doing our best, we feel better, or emotionally we feel better about that. So not everybody can be the best at everything. As long as we know what our skills are and what we enjoy, that's what's important. Okay, so what is emotional intelligence in a nutshell? EQ is the ability to identify, understand, use, manage emotions in positive ways, to relieve stress, communicate effectively, empathize with others, overcome challenges, and diffuse conflict. So that, in a nutshell, that's what we're doing with the program. As quoted by Daniel Goldman, who's a guru in emotional intelligence begins to develop in the earliest years, as Greg was saying, you know, as early as 15 months. All the small exchanges children have with their parents, teachers, and with each other carry emotional messages. So there was actually a 40-year study conducted by with PhDs at UC Berkeley and they found that EQ was 400% more powerful than IQ when predicting who would have success in their field. Even the smartest of the smart benefit significantly by high levels of emotional intelligence. So it really is linked to your performance and your attitude. The most important fact about EQ is that it can be improved and developed, while a person's IQ generally remains static throughout life, and individuals' EQ can be enhanced. And really, like Greg was saying, world is very fast-paced, very stressful, very uncertain. We've all gone through a very strange year. And now we're finding emotional intelligence matters just as much as intellectual intelligence. And, you know, children of today they are very smart. We have focused on IQ for many, many years, and they're very smart and they have access to technology. So they have information, they can Google anything, find out anything. They are very well connected. And, you know, they have stimuli coming at them from different media channels. So you could be driving in your car, the radio's on, the news is on, it's bad news, it's negative information. The children hear it, intellectually they kind of understand it, but emotionally they don't know how to deal with it. So by starting young, we're aiming to help our children build stronger relationships, succeed at school, and lead happy, successful, fulfilled lives. The younger they start on this path, we start with this program from children aged 4 right up to age 18. So I find the 4-year-olds and 5-year-olds are actually, they get it very easily, and then as long as it's reinforced and practiced regularly, it forms a very strong emotional foundation. Okay, so I'm going to talk about IQ. We all know about IQ, intellectual intelligence. IQ is related to age. We know that when a child is in, say, grade 1, intellectually they should be able to start to read, maybe to start to write, those kind of things. Then we have our PQ, which is also related to age. So we know our physical intelligence, when we are little, we learn to walk, we learn to crawl, we learn to sit, all of those things is our physical intelligence, and we can develop our physical intelligence and we can measure it. So we can decide to go to the gym and sign up with a personal trainer, maybe go for 3 months, and after that you'll see a difference in your body. You can measure your physical intelligence. But the same thing, so with EQ, there is no age limit, emotional intelligence. But with PQ and IQ, we have to continuously practice or do it. So with physical intelligence, if you stop going to the gym, you will lose your fitness very quickly. So it's a daily practice of what we do. Emotions, EQ has no age limit. An adult of 50 years old can be angry. A child of 5 years old can be angry. Sometimes you can have an adult that behaves like a 5-year-old, or you can have a 5-year-old that actually is very wise beyond their years and is emotionally quite mature. So the skills and tools that we coach in Magic Blocks are very practical and are for all ages. So I do encourage parents to practice these skills with their children. Ask your children to teach you how to do it, because it will definitely help you in your life. So really what we're doing is we're coaching. We are life coaches. So a coach will coach skills in a specific area, like a swimming coach will coach swimming, art coach will coach art, ballet, whatever the coach is. So they are developing the skills in that specific area. So we are life coaches. We are helping and developing and equipping the children with skills in their life, which is all areas. Emotions touch all areas, as Greg was saying. It can be in your family, it can be at school, it can be with friends. So we help to overcome all challenges in any area of life. Okay, so the sort of concept of Magic Blocks is we have a Magic EQ toolbox, and we teach 5 EQ tools. They're very practical tools: visualization and belief, kicking out the grouch, thoughts EQ tool, affirmations EQ tool, blocking out the negative messages, self-concept. So over the series of workshops or sessions they get given the tool, we learn it in a very practical, fun way. We use music, we use art, we use dancing, all sorts of activities. And then in the week they have to go home and practice this tool in their life, in their family, at school, wherever it may be. So they get a tool in each workshop. They come and then with this Magic Blocks EQ toolbox, we have 2 rules that are very important. Rule number 1 is allow the feeling, not the behavior. So again, with emotions, we're very conditioned to say, stop feeling sad, stop crying, don't be angry. So we want to stop the feeling. And when we suppress the feelings, it builds up and eventually kind of explodes. And then the behavior explodes. So we differentiate to the child between the feeling and the behavior. So if the child is angry and they are behaving badly, so they're hurting themselves or kicking somebody or breaking something, they should be disciplined, or there should be accountability for their behavior. If the child is angry and they are expressing their anger in a positive behavior, and they learn this through the program, we can express it through punching a punching bag, screaming into a pillow, tearing up paper, dancing it out. Anyway, we find ways to positively express our anger. Therefore, if the child is now expressing their anger in a positive way, we should actually be rewarding that behavior and saying, well done, you did well with your anger, well done for managing it. So it's taking a step back and allowing the feeling, not the behavior. Rule number 2, positive language EQ tool. So we learn and we are conditioned to speak in negative language. Often we'll say, don't run or don't shout. Stop making such a noise. So with our EQ, it really works in our subconscious, and subconsciously we think in picture language. So when I'm saying don't run, the child is actually getting a picture of run in their mind, in their imagination. So if we use language that is positive, i.e., please walk, please be calm, the picture is please walk, please be calm, and that's what the behavior generally follows. So a tool like an affirmations tool, which we teach, which is just positive statements we say to ourselves, like I am brave and strong, I am good at maths, those kind of things. If I'm saying it in negative language, like I am not ugly or I am not stupid, I'm actually creating this picture of stupid or ugly in my subconscious. So I need to say I am beautiful, or I am clever, I am kind. So we need to use the positive. We need to say I am, and what we want the outcome to be. So we learn about our grouch thoughts, our angry, sad, anxious, all those feelings that Greg was talking about. Those get stored in our subconscious. And in our mind, when a bad situation happens, a negative situation, maybe moving house, losing somebody, it's like our mind plays movies over and over again of the grouchy, sad feelings, and we start to feel like that. Our brain sends messages to our body, and we start to feel sad and angry. So what we do is we use the Magic EQ toolbox to clean out that grouchy, negative feeling and make space in our body to feel happy and excited. Because just like on a computer, if there's too many files, too many pictures, it'll say delete, or maybe it'll get a virus and it'll start to slow down. The same thing happens with our body and our mind. If we have too much grouch, negative feelings, our bodies start to feel slow down, and we eventually crash. So we use the Magic EQ toolbox to clean out those negative feelings and thoughts. And skills take practice, so it's repeat every day for a few minutes. It's like driving a car. The first time you get into a car and you need to get your license, it's very scary. It's overwhelming. You become anxious. There's lots to think about. You've got to press the brake. You've got to indicate. You've got to change gears, and it's very overwhelming. Eventually, when you've been driving for a little while, it becomes very automatic. You don't have to think about those things. It's an automatic behavior, automatic response. So what happens if we practice these tools every single day, then we start to create an automatic response to a negative situation and a more positive response to a negative situation. Okay, I'm going to play you a little video that's just going to show you a visual of the Magic EQ toolbox, of the tools and the children using the tools. So we're blocking no negative messages, we're blocked, we're forward. He says to you, you are so mean. What can you think? If you're not mean, what are you?
Loving.
Loving.
Wait, let me jump. And thoughts is in your thought and the thought can be changed. Thought can be changed. Go, 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 go. A thought is only a thought and a thought can be changed. A thought can be changed. You can move around. Thought is only a thought and a thought can be changed.
I'm good at shit. I'm good at math. I'm good at soccer. I'm good at running. I'm good at PlayStation.
Like the loss of trust.
Blowing away our worries.
Okay, so get to the next one. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed that video and it gave you a little bit more of an idea of how we work very practically with music. It's a lot of fun, the children enjoy it, and they learn a lot better through the fun. So I also just wanted to talk a little bit more about high EQ versus low EQ. So just to also explain that emotional intelligence has nothing to do with where you are in life, what age you are, what gender you are, what job you have, how much money you have. If you have good EQ, you will be happy, content, and fulfilled in your life wherever you are. So a person with low EQ would have these kind of personality traits. A person with high EQ would have these assertive, ambitious, driven, strong-willed. We all have a little bit in us. Some of us default more easily on the high EQ, some are low EQ. So I'm just going to give you 3 scenarios or analogies to explain to you that it doesn't matter where you are in life. If you have good EQ, you will be successful. So first, I like to start at the sort of top level of life, somebody who's very successful and made it in life. Let's take a president. A president has made it in life. He has or she has money, she has power, she has control. And if we take a president like Donald Trump from the US, okay, he has low EQ. He comes across aggressive, demanding, egotistical, easily distracted, resistant to change, critical, picky. While he was ruling, he created a lot of conflict, a lot of violence, hatred, separatism. And then you take a person like Nelson Mandela. So Nelson Mandela was a person with high EQ. He was assertive, ambitious, strong-willed, driven, warm, enthusiastic, patient, detailed, careful, those kind of qualities. When he ruled, he actually brought people together. He broke down barriers. One of his biggest, strongest skills in EQ was his ability to forgive. Forgiveness is a skill that is learned with EQ. So that's at a presidential level. Then we take it right down to the sort of entry bottom level of life. And I look sometimes at the traffic lights. There you have these guys and they're begging. They've got nothing. They have no money. They have no job. They are struggling. They maybe don't even have food. And sometimes when I drive around, I see these little guys, the robot turns red, they jump on their boxes and they do a little dance and they have a little, and they're having fun. They have a smile on their face and they have better EQ. So then you've got the other guy, the sort of one who's in the victim mode. There he is, oh, woe is me, he's begging, he's blaming the world, he's crying, he's making people himself unhappy and he's making people around him feel unhappy. The guys on the boxes would generally make more money and be more successful. They will be happier in that moment and they fit, they're enjoying themselves, they're getting fit. Then we take sort of, I like to call it sort of middle level of life, our day-to-day normal, where we would maybe go into a grocery store, maybe you go into, I don't know, Pick n Pay, Checkers, Woolies, and there you have a lady at the till, and the one with the low EQ, you know, she's there and she doesn't make eye contact with you, she's talking to somebody else, your groceries are flying off the thing and she makes a mistake and then she's got to call somebody to come and change something and you're late and you feel frustrated. It's not a big interaction, but you start to feel frustrated. The person with the high EQ, she's the lady there at the till, she looks at you, she makes eye contact, she asks you how your day is, she focuses on what she's doing, your groceries are done, and it's quick and easy, and you've had a nice interaction. It's not the end of the world, but every single interaction we have has an EQ value. So in that situation in a supermarket, you can teach somebody a skill, a job to operate the till to do the job. But if they've got low EQ, they will be unhappy in their job and they will make other people around them unhappy. Also having high EQ, sometimes we have to be strong. We have to be able to say no. We have to be brave. So it's just the way we do it. And that is what we teach the kids. We give them tools and equip them with ways to handle situations and interactions in a better way in all areas of their life. So consciously activating the subconscious, so that's really the basic concept of how we work. So really our subconscious thinks first. So we have a situation, we create a picture of it, and then consciously we start to make sense of it. So what we teach is think. We first think. So in the middle here, you can have any challenge or situation, negative situation. I've put here, I'm bad at maths, I'd like to get better at maths. This could be, I need more friends, I don't have enough friends, or I have a problem with my family, or somebody's sick, or somebody's died, or my doggy's died, any situation. First, we teach them to think, because everything starts with a thought. If I'm hungry, I'll think, I'm hungry. I think I'll go get a sandwich. I've actually created that picture. So it's very, it's invisible. It's kind of like Wi-Fi. You know, the children understand Wi-Fi. Messages can come into a cell phone. Videos can fly through the air, but we can't see them coming in. So it's kind of like we make this picture. And then we've got to do something. So with the EQ and the IQ, in the maths example I'm using here, if I'm thinking, oh, it's too hard, I can't do it, I don't understand, I'm bad at maths, that's the picture I'm making and that's the behavior that's going to follow. So we take a step back and we consciously activate it. We think and we visualize getting the A, and we see ourselves getting the A instead of seeing ourselves failing. And then we've got to do something. So in the maths example, the IQ, I need to understand the basic sum or maths logic. In the sandwich example, I have to get up and go and get my sandwich. It's not just going to drop out of the sky because I imagined it. So in the maths example, that's the IQ. The EQ, we say an affirmation, I'm brilliant at maths. Maths is easy. And as you saw in the video, the children move it and we run and we say it and we get it really into our body. And then if we think and do, so that's where the repeat, we practice every day. Think and do, think and do, think and do, and then we become. Whatever we think and do, we become. So again, I like to repeat again to parents and children, it really takes practice. Some children shift very quickly, a few weeks, and there's a positive change. Some take longer. If you're sort of more on the negative or have more challenges, it can take longer and more practice. So really MadGQ coaches skills in my identity, who am I, my values, what's important to me, my capabilities, what I'm able to do, my beliefs, what I believed and I believe in myself, my behavior, what I do, and the world around me. So very much today, children are very aware of the world around them, especially with COVID and climate change and plastic. They all have a lot of anxiety about their environment. Okay, so just to quickly run through the benefits. EQ benefits for children: improving confidence and self-esteem, builds resilience, learning relaxation and concentration, enhancing communication and social skills, identifying, expressing and managing emotions positively, learning to empathize with others, overcoming challenges. Essential skills for children to grow up with. And EQ benefits parents, teachers and therapists by opening the communication between teacher, parent and child. They are equipped with practical EQ tips and tools to support the child during and after the course, creates a positive bonding opportunity with parents, children in the groups, and then parents are supported in creating positive change in their own lives by embracing the tools and skills from the course and practicing it with their children. So I do encourage the children to teach the parents how to do it. Okay, so just an overview of the program. It includes a number of practical interactive EQ sessions of approximately 90 minutes. The sessions take place once a week. They will be after school. The sessions include practical fun activities as well as arts and crafts, whereby the children will make something to take home as a reminder of what they've learned and to practice their EQ skills. It includes a flip file or manual, notes for parents and children. All the practical skills are reinforced with a flip file with their worksheets, and they get to take that home. The teachers at the Bridge will also participate in the sessions and will be equipped with the EQ tools themselves, which will help to reinforce it in the classroom as well. And the program will commence in term 2. And then just requirements from parents of the grade 7s and 8 parents. We can all complete the EQ questionnaire, and then should your child participate in the pilot program, parents are required to attend an online EQ information talk prior to the course starting, and then they will be sent feedback emails once a week, which they need to read from each session and then sign a checklist and sign off that their children have been practicing their tools. Okay, and then it's important to practice it together with your children. Okay, so that's it from me. Greg.
All right, thank you, Judy. That's great. I think that explains emotional intelligence of a child and the factors that affect the child very well. So yes, so part of the solution will be to use the MadGQ program at our school for children. As I said, it's a pilot study, so there's lots to work through in terms of our children. Julie's had lots of experience running this program with other children, individuals and people outside of schools, but it's a little different in terms of a school environment, and so Julie's going to be working with us. We're going to be working with her, parents hopefully working with as well, so that we can eventually roll out a program for everyone at our school. We've decided to start with the older children because we feel it will give us a lot of things to work with. So we're going to start with our grade 8s and 7s as part of this pilot program. So we would like all grade 8s and all grade 7s to be part of the program, but we will be in touch individually with parents and children in terms of the program. There's certainly no obligation for anyone to be involved, definitely not, but we would like people to be involved. If we can assist them, we would really like to. So that's the pilot program that we're going to be running. I'm sure it's going to go well, and we'll be able to implement it across all the grades at the Bridge in the future. That's really what we plan to do. So I'm going to tackle one question to start off with. So the first one, somebody put a question up, and that question was how to change a child's attitude towards homework. And this particular person said that often children would have a meltdown when it's homework time. So first of all, this concept of homework for a school or a primary school particularly has been a fairly controversial one over the last while in terms of should there even be homework? How much homework? Should there be an hour per subject every day or not? And at the Bridge, we don't feel that it's important to do homework at home with the child. In other words, we like to do things at school. We like to cover the syllabus at school. Our teachers are well equipped to do it in class. So we don't send homework home as such. There's no 1 hour per geography or history lesson or English lesson or otherwise. The exception to the rule is across the board reading. So we don't even classify reading as part of homework. We classify reading as part of what the child should be doing every day anyway. So we can help to guide that reading program at home, and we really want to. And if you look at even last week's newsletter, we're really trying to build up the reading program at the school, even a library, and even a place for children to go at break if they wish to rather read. So we've got Ms. Barnes who's helping us with that. So really, we do not like to send home any homework whatsoever. There may be times that a child works on something. There may be times that we would like children to brush up on certain facts if they have a cycle test the next day, or brush up on concepts or work through things. That is obviously always going to be the case. Clearly, in today's world, it's much about application and not just rote learning. So that's an aspect of what we do. But if we were talking about homework in general, and I think this person is talking about if there are hours of homework, then I would say that there are a number of factors to help the child. Remember, we're talking about emotions. So it's about how does the child come to the situation. And I always use the analogy of when I'm on my way to work and I may have 10 or 12 incidents where someone's cut me off or turned in front of me or stopped dead or whatever the case is. And I could get myself in a massive emotional state before I even started school in the morning. And I really don't want to do that. So I work very hard to not build up anger, build up all those things. And it's very important because if I did, I would arrive at school in that mood. And I think the same applies to homework. If a child comes home and they're rushed, first of all, secondly, they feel they are out of their depth, they can't do the work, or the environment where they're supposed to do homework is not good, or if they're under pressure to perform from the teacher or from the parents, all of those things will help to make this a really negative experience. And it's not what you want. You want, if there is any homework to do, it will be reinforcement of concepts at home and not learning new concepts for sure. And I think we need to encourage our children rather than be fighting with them about not finishing or not finishing time or not doing fast enough or whatever the case is. It's very much about encouragement. And when the child starts with that homework, that they're in the right frame of mind from the beginning. So a lot of that lies with us as parents in terms of how we help our children to do that homework. And I say the word help, I mean the word help. It's not to do the homework for them. If they have to do homework, it's about helping them, assisting them with the work that they may have to do. I think that's our role as parents. We're not all teachers, but you can assist your child with whatever there is, if there is homework to do. But as I say, at the bridge, not so much. We don't really want to do so much. So we feel that's the approach that we like to take. Julie, you come and add to it.
Okay, so just on that homework question, with EQ, so often when a child has a negative block and we create a negative cycle, that is something that we would definitely address in the program. And we can help them to unblock that negative behavior and that negative association to homework. So it doesn't matter if it's a homework, a negative block towards homework, or anything in their life that they're struggling with, or they just feel they can't do, or it's too hard, or there's always an argument. Those are definitely things that we would overcome in the EQ program.
Swapping chairs, what do they call it? Musical chairs, just no music playing. So one of the questions that somebody posted was, why can't we start the program with maybe grade 4s or grade 3s or grade 1s? And as we said, in terms of emotional development of a child, there are many theories in terms of when some of those emotions really develop. But I think, as I said earlier, it's very much about a pilot program to, first of all, work with our little guys after school, grade 7s and 8s, and then to work with that program and to tweak it to make sure that it's going to work well, take some things out, put some things in, work through the whole thing. Because the groups, we're looking at about 8 per group. So I think it's a good enough start for now. We really want it to be pretty individualized. That's what we do at the bridge. It's very much about individualizing everything that we do. So in this case, we will start off with the program, grade 7 and 8, and we will most certainly roll it out for everyone later on if it goes well and if everything is in place. So I'd like to thank everybody for joining us. I'd like to thank Julie for being part of this team tonight in terms of looking at emotional issues that children may have and some of the solutions. I have a team of people in the room with me, helping me with the technical side. I have Natalia, who's always with me and helping me with things. Kayla's helped me. I have Karen helping me. People help me do the program before the time. So thanks to everyone for their involvement and their help. I really appreciate everyone's help. These are recorded and you can go back and check on certain things if you need to later on. Thank you everyone for joining us tonight.